Please rise, if you wish, for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, our council governs best when we are anticipating future needs of our city rather than reacting to emergencies. This evening, we will be doing the better work through several agenda items. We thank you for the privilege of being able to think about our city in the medium term, as these items suggest. We seek to meet our legal planning obligations in a timely fashion, cover the next step in investments for our residents' enjoyment, and evaluate our positioning in terms of staff compensation, as we want to continue to be a preferred employer. As we consider the matters before us this evening, grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that we may make the best decisions for those who have entrusted us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. This being the first meeting of the month in the regular City Council meeting for the month of April, we have time for public participation for items not on the agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, may approach the podium and give their name and address for the record. Joan Gray.
My name is Joan Gray. I live at 420 Quail Hill Drive in the Quail Lake subdivision of DeBary Golf and Country. I want to address an ongoing discussion about the stormwater pipes in DeBary Golf and Country Club. There are right now about 10 to 12 different locations with either an orange cone or orange netting blocking the sidewalk with large holes sinking in the ground. My main concern now is that 2 of these locations are on Plantation Boulevard, which, as you know, is the main road through our community. With the sidewalk blocked, you have to go around into the road to pass. People walking, golf carts, children on bikes, baby carriages, etc. This is not safe. The number 2 sidewalk on the corner of Beacon Club and Plantation Boulevard is also the same situation. This also is a school bus stop. I am asking you to please keep the dialogue and communication open to solve this matter. Time is of the essence before something terrible happens in our community. I want to thank you in advance for your time and attention to this matter, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes for March 5th, 2025 as written.
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to this agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to proclamations. And this is a proclamation that we do every year because we commemorate Water Conservation Month. And this evening, we are privileged to have from the St. John's Water Management District, Danielle Fitzpatrick, who will receive the proclamation. If she could come to the fore, to the podium there. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida water management districts and the city of DeBary are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas the city of DeBary and the state of Florida has designated April, typically a dry month, when water demands are most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas the city of DeBary has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events, And whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water, and whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can help by saving water and thus promote a healthy economy and community, and whereas efficient irrigation design, programming, and maintenance can conserve water, the City of DeBary will encourage citizens and businesses to evaluate their irrigation systems for potential efficiency enhancements. Now, therefore, I, Karen Chazet, Mayor of the City of DeBary, Florida, along with the DeBary City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month and call upon each citizen and business to help protect our precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. For this, the 27th year of Water Conservation Month, there will be a special focus on irrigation system evaluations. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of DeBary to be affixed this second day of April 2025. So Danielle Fitzpatrick, I present this to you to communicate to the Water District.
Thank you so much. Do you want to take a picture?
Sure. And she may want to say a couple of words. So. Great, thank you. You can give us a couple of words of guidance from the district.
Sure. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your support with this proclamation that you do every year. Water conservation is one of our easiest and most key tools that we have to sustain our water supply for the future. So we really appreciate it from the district. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And next, we are privileged to have a legislative update from our own Sherry Simmons, Director Communications, Economic Development, Government Affairs.
Tonight, it's not well, you're not privileged tonight, let me tell you. I love my job. I always get to tell you new and exciting and fun things. Tonight's not that night. As you know, we were in Tallahassee a week ago, and the Vice Mayor and the City Manager. So first, let me start off with a quick update from Becker on the federal level. Each year, as you know, Congress has to pass a budget, which begins October 1st. So October 1st, 2024 would be the fiscal year 2025 budget. Usually, I know this is shocking, they don't do it on the first try, so they pass what's called a continuing resolution or a CR. That keeps the government functioning and open at the previous budget year's level, which is in this case 2024, while the debates go on. In December, usually that CR goes through December, and I will say as a federal employee, Christmas is always a scary time because the government can always close if they don't pass another CR. But this December, because of inauguration, a new administration coming in, and a new Congress being seated in January, they passed a very long CR until March 14th. Again, government is continuing to operate under the 2024 budget. Once that expired, there were several options. A budget could be passed, the government could shut down, or another CR gets passed for another few weeks or months while they negotiate. What actually happened is something that had the smallest odds, and that is they passed a budget for the rest of the fiscal year till September of 2025, meaning that there's really not going to be a fiscal year 2025 budget. So the government continues to operate under the 2024 budget, and what that means is no appropriations that were approved for the fiscal year 2025 budget will be expended. And they will work as they work on the 2026 budget. Further, any unobligated earmarked projects provided by the fiscal year 2024 appropriation laws are eliminated. So, for example, Safe Streets for All was earmarked for $1 billion. If by the end of that fiscal year only $800 million was obligated, that $200 million goes away, and that's it. There's no more applications for it. We got ours already. Last week, we put in our request for the fiscal year 2026 budget. So we're not impacted other than we're going to be competing with unfunded fiscal year 2025 unpaid requests. So I hope that makes sense. That's a very high level. On another front, the federal government is eliminating some grants. The FEMA Homeland Security Grant Program, that was just came out. I think that was just announced yesterday. I don't know if it's been out there publicly just yet. These are programs that, while primarily focused on terrorism, it also has some mitigation funding that we were kind of looking at for environmental threats. Something similar may come back, but it will have different guidelines. And let me say, Becker is watching this very closely. So now on to the state. The state economists have projected that based on current spending patterns, tax breaks, against a backdrop of population growth and higher consumer spending, lawmakers this year should have about a $2 billion surplus for the 25-26 fiscal year. However, that would drop to a potential deficit in 26-27 of about 2.8 billion, and the following year, 6.9 billion deficit. And because of these projected deficits, the lawmakers have issued frank warnings that member appropriation requests are going to be considered very stringently, more stringently than they have been before. They kind of say something like this every year, but there's been a lot of language this year. I'm seeing this more and more in things that are being said up there. Expectations have been set by the legislative leadership that this budget will be lean and competition for the few dollars remaining will be tougher than ever before. Here's the good news for the night. Our requests are moving forward. We put in 3 requests. One of them, right off the bat, stormwater issues on West High Banks. We were told it won't go through appropriations, but to go ahead and apply through DEP grants. There's a better chance of that. The other 2, an overall emergency management stormwater throughout the city and an economic development request, they are moving forward. The stormwater project is funded 100% on the Senate side, which gets it into play, and the other project is funded on the House side. So right now, at this point, that's okay. Because session began about a month ago, and it will go sine die on May 2nd. There's approximately 2,000 bills were filed, which is normal for that, and about 20% will pass. And again, that's on par with previous years. What's important to note is that these bills continue to make significant and substantial changes that increase expenses to municipalities while decreasing how cities fund our critical services such as infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure, any infrastructure, and public safety, on top of limiting home rule, especially in the area of managing growth. And interestingly, what I thought was most interesting, in this time of heightened concern about flooding and pervious land requirements, these housing and comprehensive land bills, both singularly and collectively, require cities to reduce the amount of pervious land requirements, which is only going to add to flooding concerns. So let me start with some of these bills. The BTR, coming under fire again this year, is the BTR, a business, what we call it's a business tax. It's not really a tax. This bill will prohibit the cities from having an increased total revenue from BTR. So whatever the baseline is, which is this year, we can't get more. So if our BTR was $1 and we had 100 businesses, we took in $100. Next year, if we got another business and we collected $101, believe it or not, we'd have to issue a penny back to every single business. What they're really trying to do is make this so difficult to manage that we do away with it. But we're planning on doing some good things with the BTR, including grants for businesses, and it's something they're not seeming to understand, that this money actually gets put back into the business community. Our basic BTR is $40, and if you can get a grant for $5,000, again, that's what we're doing, and it's not something that's being communicated well, what they don't seem to understand. It also allows the state auditor general to perform an audit on cities to ensure we're not exceeding this baseline amount. I don't know how that's going to be done, but okay. Sovereign immunity is introduced each year. There are bills to raise the sovereign immunity limits. As a reminder, this is a statutory limit on liability for tort claims against the city. Is that right, Kurt? I said it right? Okay. Current limits are $200,000 per person and $300,000 per incident. The current bill would take that up to $1 million per person and $3 million per incident. Keep in mind, any rise in that liability is going to be a rise in our insurance premium, about 5 times higher, could be up to 5 times higher. I reached out to our insurance folks. It could be about a $35,000 to $50,000 increase on our insurance premium just for that line item, just for that one thing. The amount hasn't been raised since 2011, so compromise is being looked at. Raising the rate to $300,000 and $500,000 makes much more sense, and it would be a much smaller amount in our insurance premium. There's an interesting bill put forth by our local delegation having to do with stormwater and code fees. It would prohibit a city from receiving state grants or appropriations for stormwater maintenance or repair, which is what we typically apply for, until the local government has expended all code enforcement funds and has no excess funds available for stormwater management system improvements. Homestead exemptions, I know you all have heard a lot in the media about homestead exemptions. There are several bills that aim to increase the homestead exemption from the basic $25,000 to $100,000. It's significant to note that raising the homestead exemption to $100,000 will cost a cumulative $13 billion to Florida cities in 1 year. There's also a bill that's surprisingly moving that if you are homesteaded in your first home and you have a second home that you are renting, you get a $50,000 homestead exemption on that. So it's a for-profit, you're making money on renting, but you also get a homestead exemption on that. Housing, removing setbacks for certain projects. The aim is to have, and this was literally in the bill, aim to have housing in Florida look like New York City and Baltimore. Accessory dwelling units will be allowed. This is another one that's moving anywhere, along with waivers to expand ADUs. And the bill actually does allow a mobile home. You could put a mobile home in your backyard and rent it out. Now for our favorite subject, Live Local. The House and Senate introduced, depending on how you want to look at it, approximately 10 bills that touch Live Local, substantially change and expand the Live Local Act. Basically, it's a developer's wish list. A senator opposed to one of the bills, senator from Miami who opposed the bills, actually said, why are we placing private interest above public interest? Because when I read this, you'll see. We're still analyzing the bills and all their impacts, but here are the highlights or the lowlights. Or as one of the bill sponsors stated yesterday, just a few minor adjustments to strengthen the implementation. So these bills allow, and they're different bills cover different things, allows religious entities to build affordable housing on their property where the house of worship is located or on the property if they own other property without zoning and land use changes. Again, it will not come to you. They can just build the property. Prohibit any, build the project, excuse me. Prohibits any type of public hearing or quasi-judicial hearing to discuss Live Local projects. If you remember in 2023, we did a public workshop to let people know about the bill and what could happen. We would not be allowed to do that. What? Oh, sorry?
That was just a comment.
Okay. Did I not get that right? Or?
No.
Okay.
Just
Sorry.
very egregious.
Well, it gets better. Moratoriums. A moratorium, you can only do a maximum of 90 days, but it's so heavily prescribed, it makes it almost impossible. It would require the local government to conduct a housing needs assessment study, prior to a moratorium. One of our favorites, it allows the Live Local projects within PUDs. No comment, okay. Or it reduces, this is another good one, reduces the minimum number of affordable units required to designate a project Live Local. Previously, or currently, it's 40% of apartments or minimum of 70 apartments must be part of the project to fall under this act. Do you want to guess, not you, do you want to guess how many now you need? Just one. Just one project, one apartment.
And
unit.
one
unit
unit, and you
and
can
one
build,
apartment.
you can build an apartment building.
You could
If
build
just promise
300
you'll
that's right.
Let one unit be affordable.
You could be 300 apartments at $5,000, but if you have that one for $1,865,
You're good to go.
you're good to go. If cities had less than 20% commercial overall, as DeBarry does, you were allowed to require that the Live Local projects be mixed use, as long as 65% of the project was residential. So last year, you all passed an ordinance that said, fine, 35% must be commercial. If these bills pass, that will be moot, because you can only require 10% of non-residential use on a mixed-use project. Gives 20% discount on impact fees. I don't think I need further comment on that. And the opt-out option. In December, you all voted, because we met the Schimberg limits, to opt out in 2024. Now you cannot opt out unless you have three consecutive years showing affordable housing in a region. So there's a lot more details, and we're continuing to analyze the bills. We're working with the Florida League of Cities and our lobbyist. Florida League is opposed to the majority of these. We have some disagreement on one of them. Our city manager last week tried to comment on one of the bills, but it ended up not being heard. So we ran over to the other side, where another bill was being commented on by a large number of cities, because we were up there with the Florida League of Cities. There must have been about 20, I think, that got up and spoke against it, and it still passed. On a positive note, we are in the middle of week 5, meaning that there are 3.5 weeks left. The end of the session is budget crunch time. So unless something is heard in the next week and a half, the likelihood of it passing it goes far down, because the legislators are going to be focused on reconciling the budget between the two houses. They added, some of the bills got committees added to them, meaning it needs to be heard in those committees, so it's going to be harder for them to be scheduled, to be heard, to be passed. And in fact, today, one of the what we feel is the most dangerous bill was suspended, was put back into rules to see if they can get more committees added to that. So that's a good thing, and that's a legislative tactic there. If it's not scheduled by next week on one of these committees, we can hope that they won't pass. Of course, anything is possible. We saw something jump out last year at the last minute, but so that's it. I'm sorry I don't have better news.
Well, thank you very much for the update, as depressing as some points were. I do appreciate the efforts of the city manager, Sherry, and the vice mayor in going in person a week or so ago. It's hard duty and long hours, and they represent our city well. And Sherry is on the phone basically every day with the people monitoring these things now that the session is so active. When you aren't in the middle of it as a legislator, you wonder where they come up with these things. But it is a difficult thing to catch all of the things that are being thrown by someone that thinks this is a good idea, that's a good idea, the other thing's a good idea. As a layperson, it looks like no one's looking at the cumulative kind of result that they're heading towards. So I do appreciate all of the hard work from members of this city and also the Volusia League of Cities in working to try to minimize the damage. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a session where we were trying to support the good moves?
Or none.
Huh?
Or none.
Or none. Thank you very much,
Okay,
Sherry.
thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have, just email me if any of you
Okay.
want any more details or anything on.
Next, we have the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 2, 3, and 4 as written.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we are moving on to new business. The staff is requesting the City Council approve the proposed implementation and adoption schedule for the City of DeBary 2045 comprehensive plan. We'll call it DeBerry 45.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor, Councilman. Today I will give the overview on how we're going to approach the evaluation and appraisal report. The EAR, as it's nicknamed, is a periodic review of our long-range comprehensive plan that all cities do. Today I'll be talking about these kind of an overview of these three topics for a background, and then I'll go into a little more detail of the actual implementation plan. Our comprehensive plan history, we did adopt a version from Volusia County, and then 4 years later, after our city became a city, we adopted our own comprehensive plan in 1997. In 2012 was our real major overview, an overhaul, I would say, of the comprehensive plan, and then there have been some periodic updates since then. We began back in last September of looking at a lot of data we had in preparation for this evaluation and appraisal report. There's a lot of front-end data work that needs to be evaluated before we could bring it to a public meeting or to the City Council. What do the Florida statutes direct? Well, one thing is that comprehensive plans have been required by government since 1975, and more formalized in 1985 by something what's now known as the Community Planning Act. All cities and all counties in Florida go through the same process. Specifically, what are the things to hone in on? These 4 items are really what the comprehensive plan directs. One is a plan for future growth. One is to have a guide to develop, adopt and amend a comprehensive plan to guide future developments and growth. Implement the comprehensive plans by adopting appropriate land development regulations, which we did last summer. And to establish, support, and maintain administrative instruments and procedures to carry out the Community Planning Act. So, at the end of this nearly year-long process, we will have an updated comprehensive plan focused on a 20-year window, which brings us to 2045, thus the nickname DeBerry 45. Workflow. A simple workflow, really. We're updating the data and we're coming up with some recommended staff changes for the public and for the council. Once that is prepped in certain blocks of the comp plan, we'll bring that forward to a public workshop. And we also plan to have an online portal where comments can be dropped by any member of the community. Once we've done that phase, we'll bring certain portions forward to the council, very similar to what we did on the land development update, very similar to that process. Probably a meeting before the primary meeting and then followed by your normal meeting. We're looking for adoption in late fall, and then once it's adopted and reviewed, it'll be implemented into effect beginning next year. Volume 1, there's 2 volumes of the comprehensive plan. Volume 1 is some of the general vision that the city has, and also a lot of the raw data inputs that are required. Right now, what we've been focusing on providing refined data points for are what you see on the board. So we've been focusing on those 4 items right now for Volume 1. What we plan to do in probably April, now May, is have our first workshop where we'll get public comment and council input too, looking at the topics you see on your screen. We will continue to roll into the Volume 1 data, which really has a lot of key points which are important to the city: housing, economy, transportation, facilities, capital improvements, sustainability, and intergovernmental coordination. We'll also have our second workshop in the May-June time window. What we plan to do is continue as the workshops are going on and being prepared for. We're also going to look forward to our Volume 2, which is really based on a goal, objective, and policy to implement our vision for the city. We'll look at our goals, objective, policies for the future land use, the transportation element, and the public facilities element. In midsummer, June, July timeframe, we'll have our workshop. We'll discuss the general provisions, vision, property rights, management of natural resources, the future land use, and the housing, in a public input and a council input format. In the late summer, early fall, we'll continue with Volume 2, Goals, Objectives, and Policies on the items listed on the chart before you. We'll culminate that with our final touches, our appendixes, which is a large series of maps, tables, charts, etc. In July, August, we'll have our 4th workshop, receiving more input. And then we're targeting mid-September for the first council meeting and transmittal hearing. These dates are not locked in stone, but they're more of a kind of a realistic planning window that we're looking at. Once we do the transmittal meeting as in all comprehensive plan amendments, it gets sent off to the state for a further review. That process usually takes 1 month for the state to review. If there are any, some agencies may just, recommend approval or have no objections to our comments, but there may be some reviewing agencies that have some comments to resolve. Very, very common to have some comments that we need to address. It's not too big of an issue. So November timeframe, we're looking at if all comments come back and we've answered the specific staff comments if needed, we'll put it to a second reading or the adoption reading. Maybe December if there's a lot of comments that we need input from the council on, but still by the end of the year we'll have it adopted through the second reading, and then DeBerry 45 would go into effect. So we're looking at the beginning of next year for it actually go into effect. So staff is recommending that the City Council approve this proposed implementation and adoption schedule. And if so adopted or approved, we will begin to implement and schedule the specific required public meetings and activating our input portion on the public website. Once again, DeBerry 45. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, thoughts and comments? Questions?
Not at this time.
Councilmember Papalardo.
I'm excited about the public workshops. It sounds very interesting. This is for a city manager. As part of this, would something that might look like a land bank idea be something we should consider as part of this project?
As far as land bank, no.
Okay, just checking.
However, I don't know, and our growth management director may have some comments on it, but certainly you look at your comprehensive plan and then maybe areas of redevelopment too. You're looking, out to 2045.
Right.
What is the city going to look, 20 years from now?
Yeah, and the reason I mention that is because land acquisition has been a pretty large part of our strategy for the past 4 or so years, and if that is something that we should anticipate other strategies related to it or replacements for such strategies or targets for such strategies, is just something I wanted to air out.
And it may not be in the comprehensive plan in that regards. I think even you could change some comprehensive plans for possible future public land that you may want to acquire. But ultimately, that's something that we're going to have to do either by ordinance or by referendum, and develop particular strategies on how that all works and how should apply, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so,
Thank you. I didn't know if it played a role in this. Thanks.
we may pick your brain here in a little bit. So,
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Sounds like we're going to have a lot of reading over the summer again.
Yes, ma'am. The summer reading program is still in effect. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate how you're breaking this up and kind of bracing us for it. It's a similar technique that we used with the Land Development Code before, so something we have to do, and we'll get it done. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys get prepared for us.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Thank you, Mayor. 45 seems like so long away, far out into the future, but we've got to plan it. We do have to plan it. This is great. I love the process that we're doing. Again, I don't mind doing it over the time frame that we have. It's going to be time consuming. I could see it
Indeed.
getting pretty intense. So I'm looking forward to it, but 20 years is a long time to plan for. Thank you.
I have a question about something that was on one of the later slides there, and you can just tell me, you don't need to go back to the slide.
Okay.
The tentative date for a vote on the finalized draft was the 17th of September, and then the 24th, you said this is the state deadline. Explain to me what state deadline applies to this project and why.
Okay, certainly. What I refer to as the state deadline is after the first reading of any comprehensive plan amendment,
Has to go.
we are required by state law to have
7
that
days.
submitted and received by the departments.
In 7 days, yeah, okay.
That's what that number is.
Yeah, I was not sure whether this EAR report was mandated by a schedule set in the statute.
Well, what the schedule says every 8 years, we need to look at the EAR.
And it doesn't
there's
look
a-
like we've done it every 8 years over
Well,
the city's history.
The last EAR was, okay, you can do an abbreviated letter.
Okay,
Matt Berger did write a letter.
Okay.
At the time, he stated that an in-depth EAR would not be required, and here's the reasons why.
okay,
And that was
It was
like
accepted.
about 8 years ago, 7 years ago. So we are in our window now to.
right. And
Look at
to
it
say
and-
that again is probably not
So-
wise, I don't think.
Right.
Well, and you may not have.
And we've
any-
seen a lot
You
of-
may not have any changes.
We've seen a lot of growth, though, and, we do have some planning to do for our city. And so I actually think this is a good time, and I am glad that we're doing it when we can do it methodically. It sounds like we're following up on the last transmission 8 years ago, roughly, and getting this work done so that the city is on a sound course during this term with this council, which has had some experience in redoing other major documents, and I think that's a good thing. I did like the format when we were working on the code, that we did it for an hour before a scheduled council meeting, rather than taking 2 council meetings a month and then doing another whole evening. Now, if any of these evenings, though, require more than that, I would not be against an hour prior to both meetings that month, if that's what it took. I just think it's harder to get people out for a second or third ad hoc meeting. So that would be my input on that. But I do look forward to us taking this task on and moving it forward. This looks like a good approach to me.
Thank you.
So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal, implementation, and adoption schedule.
Second?
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item 6, the Parks and Recreation Department is requesting the City Council award RFQ 01-2025, Construction Manager at Risk Services for Alexander Island Park, that'd be Alexander
Yeah.
Island Park Development Project, Phases 1 and 2 to A2 Group, Inc., and move forward with pre-construction services for the amount of $50,000.
All right, Council, Jason Scheitz here, your Parks and Recreation Director here at the city. Are we ready to get moving on Alexander Island?
Yesterday.
I'm sure we are, yeah. So this is an exciting one. We're going to award the RFQ for Construction Manager at Risk Services. Very similar process as you guys just went through with the fire station. So it's kind of a two-parter tonight. We need to award the RFQ, and then we need to initiate the pre-construction services for the amount of $50,000. So a little bit of background on kind of where we're at with everything. We received the ECHO funding prior to the new year in November. Immediately put the RFQ out to bid. On January 16th, we had our mandatory pre-bid meeting where we had 5 contractors attend. We went through the ins and outs of the project and then finished with a site visit at Alexander Island, which was great for everyone to see. And then by the deadline on February 28th, we had 2 contractors that submitted proposals for the project. Upon receiving the RFQs, we formed a committee between myself, Carmen, and our city engineer, Richard, and we scored the the RFQs based on the rubric that we set up in the RFQ, and then you can see the scores there for the two contractors that came through, with A Squared Group scoring the highest of the two. So we finished vetting the contractor. We went through our due diligence to get references and review insurances and things of that nature, and then we're here today to award that RFQ to them. And Al Rebus and his A Squared team are here today as well. So when we hand it off to you, you're welcome to ask them questions directly if you like. But they're excited to get started on the project as well. They put together a very good RFQ for us. Have a lot of similar projects, a lot of great experience that apply directly to exactly what we're doing. So we feel that we're in good hands there. The pre-construction services part of this project is to get us to the guaranteed maximum price for the project. So it's going to take a couple months to go through that process with the contractors, so they can review the plans, make their own recommendations, put it out to bid to their subcontractors, and essentially we'll come back to you with that project budget for then you guys to approve to initiate the construction. Okay, and we're hoping to break ground early this summer when it's all said and done. So upon your approval tonight, we're actually going to kick this thing off next week right away, and we're gonna get right into it. So I'll hand it over to you guys for discussion and any questions you might have for us.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
Doesn't feel real that we're actually going to start digging dirt up down there and making it safe for the public. From what I can tell, I think we're going to be in good hands, and I am excited to see this project start. But other than that, no questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Pappalardo.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I'm satisfied with what we're looking at, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Yep.
Councilmember Stevenson.
No questions either. Thank you for presenting all this. It looks good. I'm looking forward also to breaking ground.
Vice Mayor Butland.
I'm going to echo what everyone said. I just have a question, Jason. We looked at pre-visuals of what it would look like. Is this stuff that they propose now new, or are we implementing the two together?
No, as far as the plans that you saw, and yeah, all that stays the same.
Okay.
We've had the project designed prior to bringing the contractors on board, so they're going to get the opportunity to review those plans so they can put in some recommendations as well from the construction side of things, just so them and the designers are all on the same page on how we want to move forward with those things. So there's ways they can look into it and possibly save us funds and things like that with alternative recommendations.
Living in that side of town, I drive by it so many times, and I always look over. Is it there yet? Yeah. Can we go in yet? So I'm looking forward to this. This is great. Thank you very much for putting your bids in, and we're excited to have you as part of the team. So I'm looking forward to it.
Vice Mayor, I did see that you were looking at some of the photographs in their presentation that was in the agenda packet. I looked at it as well. A lot of those photographs have to do with previous work and experience that they did. So they were attractive projects in my estimation, and it was encouraging. And then I did speak to them before the meeting to let them know the amount of passion that we have for this project, and that we are very eager to see it move forward and to get it to the state where the people whose money bought this can have access to it. And that is the day that I'm waiting for. So, and it's coming after all of the battling for the funds. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to award bid number 012025 to the A2 Group for construction manager at Risk Services, and move forward with the pre-construction services in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Pappalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Welcome to the team.
Yay. Can't wait.
The next item on our agenda is the city manager's request that the city council approve resolution number 2025-04 supporting Metro Plan Orlando and other transportation authorities' strategic initiative to expedite the completion of improvements to the Interstate 4 St. Johns River Bridge. City Attorney, would you read Resolution Number 2025-04?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution number 2025-04, a resolution of the City of DeBary, Florida, supporting MetroPlan Orlando and other transportation authorities' strategic initiatives to expedite the completion of improvements to the Interstate 4 St. Johns River Bridge.
Thank you. City Manager, are you presenting?
Yes, Mayor, I am. As you know, I've been working on this particular project quite heavily. I was appointed to Congressman Mills's Transportation Board. We've been working on, obviously, some of our major priorities for the region. Obviously, it's made up of folks from Volusia County, Seminole County, and Orange County as well. And pretty much unanimously, I-4 is the biggest issue. The project called Beyond the Ultimate goes from State Road 434 all the way up to 472. That was what's planned. The estimated cost for that particular project is more than and some estimates as high as $6 billion to expand it to 10 lanes all the way up there. Obviously, $6 billion is a little bit more difficult to get than maybe $500 million. And so we've been focusing on seeing what we could do to get the St. Johns River Bridge, which seems to be the bottleneck, which I know is the bottleneck. I'm a 35-year I-4 warrior. To get that bridge expanded so that it can make traffic flow and at least allow folks to stay on I-4. One of the major issues on the St. Johns River Bridge is the eastbound, and you've heard me many times because I've got stuck in it 1,000, is the eastbound merge lane. It's too short, it's uphill, and it causes traffic to slow. And that's the major bottleneck right there, and that bridge needs to be expanded. Fortunately, when they did the bridge in 2004, a lot of the foundations are already in the river, so it can be not easily, but more efficiently expanded. In 2004, when I was mayor, I was on the TPO representing the council. At that time, that bridge needed to be improved and expanded. We developed a strategy with the Volusia NPO, that's what we called it back in those days, Volusia NPO. We developed an alliance with the Orlando NPO. And together, regionally, we went forward and we marketed for $125 million, which we got, and the bridge was expanded in 2004. So we're kind of taking this same concept, trying to get more regional support. The more folks you have on board, the easier it is to acquire the money, particularly if it's a regional project. They hold more weight. And so we had an approach. I was doing all that work with working with FDOT, as well as now I got a call from Seminole County Commissioner and MetroPlan and said, look, we want to start banning this together, which is exactly what we want. And so the purpose of this resolution is to start garnering support from all the municipalities and the counties, and all of us marching forward to try to see if we can get any improvements on I-4, whether it's the bridge by itself and do some incremental improvements, or go after the entire $6 billion if it's available. But that's going to be a major factor. So our first approach is to let's try to get in this incremental improvement. $500 million might be easier to get, if we all move forward. And so that's what we're trying to do. I know it sounds like an enormous amount of money, but in road construction, really it's just a drop in a bucket for road construction. So Mayor and Council, this is supporting MetroPlan and other transportation authorities that can jump on board. We'll ask for the Volusia Flagler TPO to do the same thing. We'll ask all our neighboring communities and municipalities who are impacted by I-4 and the I-4 bridge to jump on board as well. And hopefully this collective effort will start a movement to try to get this money and politically try to get it.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments about a resolution?
It'd be nice to go from the Seminole County, the Sanford Mall to the DeBerry exit in less than 22 minutes. That's crazy. Crazy. But yeah, this is a worthy cause for sure.
Councilmember Papalardo,
Yeah, I'm on board. I think we're behind the ball already.
Councilmember Stevenson,
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
I agree, we are behind the eight ball on that one, and yesterday was a perfect example with the car fire on I-4, and this was backed up forever. I think there's actually 2 nights in a row that there's incidents there that we get the effects on our street here. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm looking forward to the collaboration between all the communities and getting this done.
I strongly support this. I will tell you, though, FDOT is in charge of the project. And there's going to have to be substantial pressure for them to switch course, because they have plans for this stretch for Beyond the Ultimate. And those plans are to work on the lanes and do everything except the bridge. That I got from John Tyler, who is the head of FDOT 5. This is FDOT 5. In a TPO meeting within the last 3 months. And step one is they have a small amount of money in I think the current fiscal year for rights of way acquisition that go into this project. This is your real early stages. And I said to him, does any of these rights of way go towards reconstructing the bridge and getting any that you need there? And he said, I'll have to get back to you. Well, the subsequent answer was no, because I said, if that whatever $1 million is for rights of way like at Dirksen and I-4, because there has been talk that they may take out some of those condos there, the frame condos will be purchased for right of way for that expansion. That would be a loss of some housing in DeBerry. No, it's for every other component of this, the right of way that might be needed. So I do think that agencies can change course when they get pressure from all sides. And this is a good such effort. And I think that that's where our hope is, rather than trying to convince FDOT alone that their current plan is like the complete reverse of what we think would be the most help, which would be to address the bridge, which is the big pinch point. It has to do with money. So did you discuss this with FDOT recently?
yeah.
I'm sure they were thrilled to just jump right on it.
Well, yeah, and obviously, obviously there's some concerns. One is that they have a 5-year plan, and the concerns is that enough pressure is put on to divert some of the money in their 5-year plan to this particular project, which they don't necessarily want to do. This bridge and the I-4 is not in the 5-year plan. So the big issue is that we're looking for new money outside their 5-year plan, and that's some of the things that trying to obligate FDOT is to go. Let's go try to find some new money to bring in, so it doesn't disturb their 5-year plan.
This is a good report. In the 5-year plan, there is some money allocated for right-of-way acquisition, though.
Yeah.
That's where he made the presentation, and I pushed him on it. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-04, supporting Metro Plan Orlando and other transportation authorities' strategic initiative to expedite the completion of improvements to the Interstate 4 St. Johns River Bridge.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item number 8, the city manager is requesting the city council approve a new position of Senior Director Community Operations effective May 1, 2025.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to be kind of summarizing. There's 3 personnel agenda items. I'm going to summarize all 3 of them at once. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the financial part first, and then you can we can review each individual agenda item thereafter. So I'll talk about all three. We'll talk about the financial impacts on those, and then each individual item we can certainly discuss. But I did want to cover all three and also talk about the finance in that regard. One of the things I want to say before we get started here, I think we all agree that we're so very fortunate in the last 6 years. We've put together one of the best staffing teams in Central Florida, in my opinion. They're talented. They can do any particular job. They cross department lines. They do more than one particular job. And they're experienced, they're talented, they have the expertise, and we're so very fortunate. I'm so very fortunate because it's a pleasure to lead them, and it's a pleasure. So certainly I've been in situations throughout my career when you walk into a new organization or other organization, it's not that good, the climate's not good, but we got a great climate and great staff, and we're blessed. So to get started, our presentation, we have three separate agenda items. One, recommending adding a senior director position. Two, recommending adding a part-time planning tech position. And both of those are extensively workload related. And then three is we did based upon a council request, we conducted a comprehensive pay study. We provided that report to you with the recommendation of what the report indicates. I want to make clear to the public that none of these salary increases involve the city council. Fortunately or unfortunately, the council's salaries are handled by a referendum and city charter. And the city council salaries are adjusted by the CPIU index annually. Per the charter, you do have a right to do an ordinance, but that's not here tonight. Tonight's only for the staff. And if you did an ordinance, it can only be effective after the following election, and that's in the charter. And so tonight, there's no council salaries involved. This is all of staff's salaries. So one of the things we do after every year, we have our conducted audit. We balance our financial statements, and we do a budget amendment every year after the audit of the previous fiscal year. And we did that on March 5th, 2025. The general fund, as it stands right now, the unassigned reserves are at $9.227 million. And I use a kicker in there plus the FEMA, and I use the word accounts receivable for 2 hurricanes, which is $3 million plus.
Whenever we get it.
Whenever we get it. And given the current federal situation, I don't know how long FEMA is going to be around. We'll see how that works. And then, so when we did the budget amendment on March the 5th, we added $374,510 to the assigned reserves, and that's generally for projects. We kind of split up our reserves, assigned for projects, unassigned, anything else. So that assigned reserves went from 1.9 million to 2.27 million. So in essence, when you add all our reserves up, it's 11.5 million plus the FEMA accounts receivable. The stormwater fund, it obviously a little smaller. Its unassigned reserve balance was $700,000. With the budget amendment on March the 5th, we put in another $263,056 to reserves, taking it to $963,452. And so that's where our reserves sit right at this particular moment, based upon that budget amendment we did on March the 5th. Okay, I'd hit it twice, but so if it jumps, I apologize. No, so far so good. So the proposed financial allocation for the remaining fiscal year, because we're right in the middle of the year, it's for 6 months. The general fund, obviously, we assigned the $374,000 of the extra money that we had from the previous fiscal year. We added it to the assigned reserves. If you did approve the senior director, fiscal year 2025 expense is approximately $70,333. That includes benefits. That's for the remaining fiscal, all the way through September 30th. The part-time planning tech is $12,191, and then if you approve the pay study and its recommendation, that cost is $166,818, for a total of $249,342 for this remaining 6 months. And then the annualized cost, which is obviously double that, will be implemented in the fiscal year 2026 budget. So the proposed allocation also includes, if the pay study also includes stormwater employees, and so they're paid out of the stormwater fund. And so we added $263,056 to the stormwater fund reserves. And the pay study, the stormwater employees, including benefits, that will total $24,248. And so that would also, the annualized cost will be included in the fiscal year 2026 budget. And so, as you can see there, based upon the budget amendments we had there, the additional monies that we had from last fiscal year that were moved to this fiscal year, certainly covers this fiscal year's costs. And that's what the budget amendment would do, is we would assign those monies that are in the reserves and move it towards salary and benefits for each department. So based upon the approved items, the budget amendment, if you do, based upon the items that you do approve, a budget amendment will be placed on the April 16th agenda based upon what you approve tonight.
Just a point of clarification, the things that were added to the assigned reserves were added for capital projects, and staff costs are not capital projects. So that would be part of the budget amendment, would be to reassign it from capital projects to staffing costs if we move forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So moving forward, this is going in down to the senior director, and I'll present the senior director, and our HR director will present on the part-time position, as well as the comprehensive pay study that she had conducted. So the Senior Director of Community Operations, and be very honest with you, we've been working on this for quite some time to make sure that we had the correct type of position that would benefit not only myself, but also benefit the organization. And so these are some of the issues here that, our current environment, our business vision and model are extremely successful. We got 47 employees. We're extremely productive. We handle all the city's services. We have perfected the contract for services, and we really have become the model city in Volusia County. But unfortunately, our workload is increasing exponentially. We're growing. The workload is growing so fast that it's getting very difficult, to be honest with you, to handle all the issues. And it's just not the daily workload, it's all the other external issues that we have, school board, FDOT, and some of the other things that we have to legislature. And these are all the things that we have to do to protect our city. Make sure that we have a good foundation, not only for our organization, but make sure that we're able to protect our city against laws like Live Local, making sure that it's customized to our city. But also some of the work that FDOT does. I'm sure y'all have seen some emails regarding that. And so we have to handle those. They take a lot of time, a lot of negotiations. St. John's Water Management District is another FDEP. We got a few cases with FDEP out there, not us, but private individuals. But we're working on a lot of those. So those increase your workload. And unfortunately, we haven't reached our peak yet. We think our peak's going to be workload-wise in the next 2 to 4 years. And some of the challenges, obviously, is maintaining our excellence and quality performance. Obviously, that's very important to us. I think you see that our work is very professional, and our excellence in everything that we do is to make sure we do the best for our organization, do the best for our residents and our community. Maintaining our superior work environment. I can tell you that, and I think you may hear it from some of our employees, our work environment is second to none. It's very passionate, high energy, respectful, trustworthy, and I think that's why our management team works so well together, is that we have tremendous amount of collaboration and communication, and it's some days it's really great to watch. And then obviously managing the ever-increasing complexity. Some of these particular issues are highly complex. As you know, some of our negotiations on some of our development, and Kirk can nod his head yes, tend to go 9 months to a year. And they're pretty strenuous. Our negotiations with FP&L was 4 years. And they're extremely time consuming, but they're getting more and more complex as we get down to our land shrinking, trying to fit these developments in. And it's very time consuming, I'll be very honest with you, to make sure that we preserve our quality of life and our lifestyle. And it's forcing, making sure that you defend your city, every single project, make sure it's done right, and making sure that we're going to be able to live with it for the next 50 or 75 years. And so time management and day-to-day operations are also the challenges there. So requesting the full-time position, and these are some of the attributes that we'd be looking for in this, and these are my terms that I've established over 42 years. You may not have heard of adaptive leadership and management skills, but when you run government like a business, change is every day. The business environment changes every day. Political environment changes every day. Even the situations in your organizations change every day. And adaptive means is that you should be able to adapt your leadership style and management style based upon the situation in your organization. Whether you manage at the macro level or micro level, you got to be able to shift depending on the performance of departments. Whether you are detail-oriented or general or task-oriented or humanistic, you've got to be able to shift depending on the situations in your organization. And that's really today's leadership and management styles. People go, what is your management style? Well, you need to be adaptive. You got to handle change, and you got to be able to shift and shift gears depending on a lot of different factors, external and internal. Also, the vision and business acumen. That's one of my strong points, and I expect this particular position to do the same thing. You got to be able to forecast, see. You got to understand how business works, how to create leverage with other businesses, and what are their strengths and weaknesses, so that you can effectively deal with the business environment, the economic environment, et cetera, et cetera. But you got to have that vision to be able to see it. And of course, the last one there is the education, experience, and expertise. And this is going to be the big factor. Those 3 E's are very important, and we're going to focus this position towards the growth management, building and construction, stormwater emergency management, and that style. Project management, we have a lot of construction projects that are coming that need the day-to-day oversight. And of course, negotiations and contract development, working with our city attorneys and everything else to be able to assist in a lot of these things. It seems like we might have 10 to 15 contracts negotiated going at the same time. Yeah, I think we do. And again, this is some of the senior director responsibilities, planning on moving them to supervise growth management, engineering, public works, and parks and rec. And so these are some of the challenges in growth management. I won't read them all, but it is our developments are going to get even more complex with some of the big stuff coming in. and how do you structure and making sure that everything fits and it maintains our quality of life and our lifestyle. The engineering, be honest with you, are pulled in every single direction. And it's just not the engineering for the city. It's the water tank and the county wanting our engineering input on the water tank that's going behind the fire station and its impact. It's the potable water that's going along Fort Florida Road and his review and impact on how is it going to affect Fort Florida Road, where is it going to go, how is it going to cross the bridge over there by FP&L. There's just a tremendous amount of engineering impact, just not only for the city, but for every agency, St. John's Water Management District, Volusia County Utilities, Volusia County themselves, stormwater, it just keeps going and going and going. Public Works, we do have 20 projects that we need to complete, and if we do get this funding, we're going to be implementing some of these particular projects and trying to get to the end, the management of the pumping stations, and of course, emergency management. I can't think of anything that is more stressful than hurricane season and getting the hurricanes. And y'all see it in our faces when we're going through some of these things. And then Parks and Recreation, again, building and construction, pickleball courts, Alexander Island, event management. You know, people don't realize that 2026 is the country's 250th anniversary. And the president has already talked about having year-long events throughout the entire country for 2026 to celebrate the country's 250th anniversary. And I imagine July 4th, 2026 is going to be a special event. So, Mayor and Council, this is the proposed organizational chart. It shows all the citywide departments and business processes will still remain under the city manager. And then the senior director will be overseeing the growth management, the engineers, the public works, and the Parks and Rec. They can provide the day-to-day activities and the oversight of all those, that everything that we got going on. And I can tell you it's pretty extensive. Really proud of the work in all four of those departments. The management team, me being the management team as a city manager, but the senior director also being the city manager's partner is be able to give them more support because we're pulled in so many different directions in defending our community, give them the day-to-day support that they need with the technical expertise. So Mayor and Council, what we're asking for is approval of the senior director position. The annual cost is approximately $140,000 plus pennies. If approved tonight, then we'll advertise the position immediately upon approval. The position will remain vacant until a suitable candidate accepts. Trust me, we are going to take our time and hire the exact right person for this position. And then the hiring date, just putting it out 60 days, it will be June 1st. And if the hiring date's June 1st, then the costs and benefits are $58,000 for this fiscal year, $333 with the benefits about $12,000. So Mayor and Council, if you can just back up one more, just do that last slide again. So Mayor and Council, we ask for your approval of the Senior Director of Community Operations.
Okay, so you want the discussion about the senior director to go forward in a vote?
Yes.
City Clerk, is there any public participation?
No, ma'am, there is not.
Councilmember Sell.
You're looking
Questions
for
and
somebody like a Sherry Simmons of growth management. A lot of hats, a lot of different nuances for that job. Listening to it all, there was one name. I'm like, there's a guy like that in our city that fits that bill. I'm just thinking about Howard Gates. I don't know why. He just seems like somebody that would be up to that task. But yeah, I'm all for hiring somebody like this. I know the city is expanding and it's gonna do it all at one time, almost, basically. So the other thing that just sticks out on these pages is that we have 47 employees. It just nobody's even remotely close to that. It's kind of crazy how compact we are as a city and how well-oiled a machine we are. So, yeah, I'm good with definitely looking for somebody to fill that position.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Thank you. So I'm always really apprehensive about organizations becoming taller, because this is a layer in between some groups. But when I looked at it more closely, City Manager, when we spoke about it, I thought more about the technical expertise, getting into the minutia of those. And I don't expect the City Manager, whoever it may be, to get into the minutia of a stormwater project, of all of the tiny little pieces of land development or growth management. And I think that's a really important differentiation that we're developing here. So I'm very much on board with this, mostly because it's here, the city manager spread too thin. And I feel like this body can create opportunity to appear at certain venues as well. I think that was in part of the agenda item, is that the opportunity to speak in front of county council, in front of ECHO boards, in front of Volusia Forever, should there ever be a future case for that, TPOs and various other construction-oriented or land-oriented programs that need input from us, so that we aren't spread as thin, so that the city manager can focus on, one, generalized oversight on those important factors, but more specified oversight on some that you might consider more administrative in the scheme of things on that other half of the org chart, the finance, the, I forget what's on that org chart, but the rest, the other half, everything.
Governmental.
Exactly. The more business side, the gears, not so much the infrastructure side. So I've come around on this. Thank you for proposing this.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Excuse me, I had also had hesitations when I first read this item and the added cost for another staff member. But to be honest, you know, as a council member, we don't run the day-to-day operations. However, I have seen in all the years of participating with the local government kind of how busy city managers in general keep themselves. And previous city managers weren't nearly as busy, nor were they getting as much done for our city. I know you're running all over the place. So the more we talked about it, one of my biggest questions was, you know, how many cities have assistant city managers? And the reply was
Virtually all. Virtually
all of them. So because we've been a small to medium-sized city, and because there wasn't all of this pressure and growth, we've managed to get away without having that position. But I do think that it's necessary. We definitely need to protect the city's interests and negotiate and not have to miss things because there's too many obligations. You can't personally attend to all of them, or then we'd be missing details possibly as well. So I was also turned around with my opinion on this, and I would support this for you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Thank you, Mayor. I know how hard Carmen works. I do know. Sitting in a car with him for 4 hours, going to Tallahassee, and coming back another 4 hours. His mind is constantly going for 3 days. His mind is constantly going, but he loves what he does. And it shows. It shows when we're talking to the legislation, and I think that's his forte. And I would love for him to keep doing that and not worrying about what's going on, you know, not that we don't worry about what's going on in the city, but having someone else here, you go there with a little bit of easement or doing other things that you're more controlled. I'm concerned that we have to expand this building. Where are you housing these people? Okay, I knew you did, but I'm saying, but I'm all for it. You know, I support you 100% in trying to do what you love, what you can do the best that you can, and having this position, which only enhances the city, and I think it's a good accomplishment to get that done. Thank you.
DeBerry has had an assistant city manager in the past. And we have run the city very, very slimly since those days. And I do think that it is completely accurate that the complexity of the many, many projects in front of us is far eclipses anything other than perhaps the development of our main stormwater systems. And it's not just one thing now, it's not just a stormwater system. It's, developing new commercial space. It's handling issues with sewer systems and septic systems, and it's growth, and it's new laws about growth, and it is new regulations about growth. It's so many things. I think that we have done very well so far, but we have a lot that we are getting done, and we can continue operating at this high level and being a resource and a model for others, going to Tallahassee when needed during session once a year or twice a year, because we do read everything that's coming out. We are more immersed in the day-to-day than I get the sense is happening at some of the adjacent jurisdictions. And so we are more active that way because we have the interest, the passion, the knowledge, the effort involved. But you can't do all of that all of the time and not miss something somewhere. So I think that it is the time for us to have a senior director position reporting to Carmen, not just a assistant manager, which his text in the agenda packet was clear, he's not asking for assistant manager, but to say these very detail-oriented and very active departments could have day-to-day leadership. I fully expect that Carmen will still know everything that is going on, but if there's a negotiation with another governmental agency, having someone who has enough position within the city organization to represent the city and support the staff in the things that they're trying to get from the other entity, I think will be important. So I think it's a sign of success that we need it, not a sign of weakness or failure by any stretch. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion on item number 8, which is the Senior Director Community Operations position approval.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the new position of Senior Director Community Operations effective 5/1/2025.
Second?
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we're moving on to agenda item number 9. Staff is requesting the City Council approve the addition of a part-time planning technician position in growth management effective May 1, 2025.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Wendy Cullen, Human Resource Director. Mr. Bapp has chosen to stay while we discuss this item since it directly impacts his department.
This is not the right PowerPoint.
No, Eric.
The other one?
The other one.
I wanted them to look different
There
than
we go.
Carmen's. So we are requesting a part-time planning technician. It's a non-benefits eligible position, which means that the only benefits this employee would get as a permanent employee would be prorated PTO and holiday pay. So they would not get medical, dental, vision, or any of the other things that are associated. It would be staffed at about 20 hours per week. And it's needed to enhance our service capabilities and be an initial point of contact down in growth management. Now, I've been with the city, believe it or not, for 5 years this July.
Unbelievable.
I know. And it's been a great ride. But when I started here, we had a staff assistant, basically, in growth management. And as our needs, back then were to get planning staff and planning technician staff that could do more of the detail work and bringing your vision to light. That position, when she retired, was reclassified to a planning technician. So we didn't have that administrative support. And that planning technician provided administrative support to growth management in the areas of code enforcement by doing the certified letters, and then assisted with the magistrate hearings and with taking minutes and going to those events, and also assisting with some of the more routine things to free up professional staff for professional duties. And by routine things, I mean business tax receipt processing applications, tree permits, making sure that the arborist certification was there. And so we had that support. And then our planning tech got promoted because she got her master's degree and she got certified. And so we ended up with 3 planners in the planning department. And because we run so lean, as Carmen has said over and over again, and we pitch in, there is no task that's beneath anybody, and there is no task that is not to be done. But at the same time, there is a need now to have somebody assist with some of those more routine duties, especially as some of the larger projects come online. So in code enforcement, it would be to assist our code enforcement officer, which we call neighborhood improvement, with some of the more routine paperwork items so that person can be out in the field. They would do business tax receipts and tree permits. They would also be the first point of contact with the public. So if somebody comes in the building and has a question for growth management, they can assess the question, the concern, and make sure it goes to the right party. I know we have Julia in the front, but she is not going to be quite as knowledgeable on the land development code and all of those things as somebody in the planning department would be. Some of the big projects that growth management is dealing with is their commercial mixed use and large projects are Main Street, Spring Walk, Town Park. I don't know, Mr. Bapp just presented some 2-year, 45-year, 20-year plan that his staff's going to be working on, as well as Live Local and expedited permitting and the comprehensive plan review. So the work exponentially in growth management is continuing to expand. And we'd like professional staff to work on professional things, such as environmental protection, our mobility and transportation fees, and our planning review. The position, again, would be 20 hours. I know you are all aware that our current neighborhood improvement officer is out on medical leave. We are assessing that situation, and if changes are going to, at least to support neighborhood improvement right now, the person that we do have a temporary person in there that's filling in that will help us get through this period until we assess what's going to happen with that full-time position. The annual cost for this, because it is 20 hours per week, is $24,381.83, give or take, which leaves us to the remainder of the fiscal year cost of $12,190. If you approve, then a budget amendment will be prepared and presented at the April 16th council meeting. So at this point, I will open up for questions.
City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
I don't think a week goes by where I don't get 2 or 3 calls about something to do with code enforcement. So I know that Patty's out on medical leave, so I understand the situation. I don't have any other questions.
Councilmember Papalardo?
I had asked this question to the city manager when we briefed on the agenda. It sounds like a really niche cross-section of expectation of planning tech and being part-time. We can find someone like this, we expect. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll be able to find somebody and that can do both of these, absolutely.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes, I think that it's good that we're addressing these issues so that we can get paperwork done efficiently. Like you said, these are routine matters, and I know people sometimes complain about permitting taking too long or code enforcement issues, as Councilmember Sell said. So good to have this half position to fill in until the other employee situation's figured out.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Thank you, Mayor. This is great because I don't like gaps. I feel like we fall behind when we have gaps, and then it's housekeeping all the time. It's always cleaning up, always catching up. So I'm thrilled about this. I think it fits the city as we stand right now, and I'm excited to have this part-time position filled.
And I would say, I think this is another one where our current demands are such that we need this, particularly for routine matters. At the current moment, the support for code enforcement is really key, but many of these other things are routine year-round, and this is not a very high-cost position to make sure that our professional people have enough time to do their jobs without the routine matters that someone like this could handle. And I think it's a good addition. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the addition of a part-time planning tech position in growth management effective May 1, 2025.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. And then item 10, city staff requests City Council approve the City of DeBary pay plan, establishing a compensation structure to be implemented effective April 6, 2025, and to approve resulting staff wage adjustments.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Wendy Cullen, Human Resource Director. Wow, are you comfortable? Because I have a story to tell, and I hope you're ready to hear it. Back in 2022, when I first came here, one of the tasks that I was given was to analyze our pay structure and our salary structure. And at that time, we were woefully behind, and we are still not necessarily ahead. We would all like to be ahead. And so I was tasked with doing this again. And so I took a little bit different approach this time. I belong to 2 human resource consortiums, which are basically professional groups that get together about once every month, some of them every 3 months, just to talk about HR stuff. The one is south of the bridge, basically Sanford, Seminole County, Mount Dora, Eustis, Apopka, Tavares, Winter Springs, Lake Mary, all of those people that can shop for our employees because it's really commuting distance. And then the other one is considered Volusia and Flagler. And that is the one in Volusia Flagler. Not only is there a consortium of public professionals in HR, but I also attend the Volusia Flagler Society of Human Resource Management public-private sector meetings. And so a lot of good information comes out of those things, and I won't bore you with the details of the last one on leadership and recruitment, but I will tell you that this really fun document, which is Exhibit 1, that you all got, it's 9 pages. And how this came to be is I took the pay plans of all of the municipalities that are listed here, and I took our positions. And so we have one city clerk, and I will use the example of the city clerk because every municipality has one. So I listed for all of the municipalities what the minimum wages were for that role and what the maximum. No, I didn't necessarily get into whether they're, what certification level they have, but I would assume that all public sector city clerks would have at least the minimum certification to be a clerk. Okay, I know ours has the best, highest certification, so hi, Annette. And so what I did is I took all of those pay plans and I entered the minimum and the maximum on a spreadsheet. And it became this. And I did look at titles. So you will note that in some cases, in the margins or the last column, there's an alternate title listed. Okay. You will also note, as you reviewed this, that sometimes the title didn't exist. I've become the de facto risk manager for the city, which is fine, but I did not include risk management salaries on this because we don't have a position for risk management. So what I did with this is I took all of the pay plans, the minimums and the maximums, and I looked at job descriptions when I was confused or if I wasn't sure which aligned most realistically to the ones that we have, and I put them on the spreadsheet. Okay, and I do want to emphasize that, we don't have any equipment that requires a CDL. So I did not put equipment operators on here. Okay, I stuck with like trades workers, maintenance workers for our field staff because we don't have any equipment that's going to require us to, dig a hole or, use an excavator or a huge dump truck. And so what I did is then by position, I analyzed where we were in relation to the min and the max. Now you may also recall that back in the day when I first started here, I kind of borrowed information from paid pay plan studies done by New Smyrna Beach and the city of Deltona. Deltona's had some turmoil lately, and they don't currently have an HR person, which you'll note in the narrative in a few minutes. But New Smyrna Beach does have an updated pay plan, which is part of what I used to base our original pay plan off in 2022. And you will see that even for the maintenance worker role, New Smyrna Beach's minimum for that position is $17.89 per hour. Okay, so that is what exhibit number 1 is. It is basically all of the pay plans for all of our positions to demonstrate where we are in relation to everybody in our local commuting distance area. Which, when you go to page 9, I think it's 9, demonstrates that the city of DeBary is on average 10% below our counterparts. That ranges between 2 and 25% depending on the position that you're looking at. And again, as Mr. Rosamonda likes to say, we do all the same things that all of these places do. We just do it with fewer position titles. So the next document that I prepared is exhibit number 2. Okay, and it is the salaries of our leadership across the region. And this is actual live salaries. And I'm going to use HR kind of as a tipping point or an illustration, a point of illustration, because I know HR, because that's what I do. And you can see that based on the actual paid for salaries, this is just wages, this doesn't include bennies, we are again, for leadership alone, 16% below the min for those in our region. So then you have exhibit number 3, because I like to talk about Volusia County because we're the best city in Volusia, and it shows that we aren't necessarily, our leadership staff isn't necessarily compensated the same. Across Volusia, we are 12.9% below. And this is split into 2 factions, basically, medium-sized cities and large-sized cities. There was only one small city, Oak Hill, that responded, so they're not included here. Again, looking at HR, you will see that there's 2 vacancies. Don't worry, I didn't apply, have no desire to go. But Deltona just closed their search. Their minimum salary is $120,000. DeLand interviewed this week, I know because a friend of mine interviewed for it. Their minimum is $110,000. And I can most likely with 95% certainty tell you that if somebody is going to go to one of those organizations that has public sector experience and that has at least one of the 2 certifications that prove that you know what you're talking about in HR, they're not going to hire at the min. Okay, so this is illustrative as to what our local municipalities are paying for the same talent that is here in DeBary. I'm sorry to the trees, I really am. Exhibit 4 is city managers. I tell stories, so if you indulge me for a minute, I'm wearing a blazer that's almost pink. And I tell you this because I have a blazer in my closet that is pink. And I wore it once when I discussed city manager salaries with a prior council that I served under. And I never wore it again because now it's bad luck. So I keep it there as a reminder, but I hesitate to talk about city manager salaries because it's always a difficult conversation. But Mr. Rosamonda is paid 10% less than his counterparts across the region. Now, city managers are unique beasts because they're by contract. And a lot of city managers, when they negotiate their contract, they negotiate things that are more important to them and or more important to the city in which they're going to join. So in some instances, the city manager's contract includes 100% medical, dental, vision, et cetera, for not just the employee, the contracted employee, the city manager, but all of their dependents at no cost to the city manager. Mr. Rosamonda treats our benefits as if he is a regular employee. He pays for his dependent coverage. Other municipalities increase the amount of money that's in the deferred compensation for their city managers. My prior city manager at my other place had 20% going to his deferred comp. Hi, Mr. Papalardo. 20% going to his deferred comp, and that was a point of negotiation because that was important to him. And so when we talk about city manager salaries, it's really hard to talk about just wages. It really is what's important to the municipality and what is important to the applicant when they are offered that city manager role. So based on that, when I talk about the city manager salaries, I have included basically the deferred comp amount, the medical amount, and that is where I came up with that 10% figure. So Mr. Rosamonda's contract does say that he gets compensated with raises, the same as all other employees. And so as I finish going through the rest of these slides, now that you've indulged my stories, but I want you to know that benchmark, that we are not asking for anything more than what the data would suggest is the value. So that being said, okay, turnover is one of our biggest threats. We have a staff that has been very stable. A lot of that is to the leadership on this dais and the leadership in this organization. And our managers, our middle managers, our professional staff have been here for a while. And if they were to leave, then the result of that would be not only a drain on our current institutional knowledge, but it would be a rapid loss of efficiency because we all do so many things. And so one of the fears is that other organizations will begin to poach our employees. Not only do we fulfill multiple roles, since Mr. Rosamonda's been here and I've been here, we have instituted emphasis on certifications and trainings to make sure that the staff that we do have are well qualified to perform the work that either we need for them to do or we may desire for them to do. The more certifications and the more valuable they become to us, however, the more valuable they might become to somebody else. And so that is also a concern. We are a leader in efficiency, and we do run very lean, and we run like a business. And we really don't want to start losing our staff because the market, especially as a new hire at a new place, is going to offer them more than what they perceive they're going to receive here. So that being said, we have a recommendation to increase wages for all staff, including the city manager, by 10%. I have also included Exhibit 5, which is the revised pay plan. You may recognize this from 2022. It has now been updated to move the bands 10% from the min and the max. The proposal cost for the remainder of fiscal year 2025 is just over $191,000. That includes our workers' comp and retirement. And the a budget amendment would be presented to you should you approve on April 16th, and the funds, as Carmen already discussed, would come from reserves, general fund reserves and stormwater reserves. Any increase in annual costs that we've decided upon would then be part of the 2026 fiscal year budget. And with that, I will take your questions.
City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right. I wish we had some data on this, though. Councilmember Sell. Questions or comments?
Is this where we're going to get down into the weeds and start to discuss a percentage point for the staff and for Carmen, or are we just going to ask Wendy just questions in general right now?
Well, I think that this item calls for a vote on the request by city staff to approve a new pay plan which incorporates a 10% raise for all employees, including the city manager. That's what is on the table on the agenda item. So any questions that you have about that would be appropriate here, whether you consider it pointed to the city manager's compensation or general employee compensation. Because once the vote is taken, it's on that, to increase across the board 10%. And I had asked today to make sure that the language in the referendum that we had on compensation for the council was researched, because I knew there was an escalator, and I couldn't remember if it was tied to city staff adjustments. But it is a separate index, which is good. We're not talking about voting for anything for ourselves, which I thought was important to be clear about. So, Councilmember Sell, now what are your questions and comments?
Well, obviously, I love all the information. With that, I'm an hourly employee. I've always been an hourly employee. I always think myself as one of the best employees that any company could ever have. I hate large companies when they're going, everyone's going to get a 3% raise. I don't care if you've stayed late. I don't care if you're the guy that always raises his hand to do, overtime or work a weekend. It's 3% for everybody. So the guy that is a slacker, yeah, he gets the same bump in pay as you do. So I know every person is different. I'm sure we have some employees that are go-getters and they go above and beyond. I don't know who they are, honestly. Personally, I think they all are. At least I like to think that way. I've had lots of interaction with you guys in this building, and I know you guys you go way above and beyond. You've bought into the city. I know that. I've ran into some employees outside of the city. They always have a smile. They're always Mr. Sell, blah, blah, blah. That's why I say that, I really do think they're the best. But, I know we can't get in the weeds and say Johnny is a little bit above and beyond. He should get 12%. This guy over here could do 8%. So I had a number in my head. I discussed a little bit with Carmen as far as the employees outside of Carmen right now. I'm talking about people in the building, people outside of the building. Like I'm open to up to 15% increase in pay. Personally, I would love to do, 8 this year, 7 next, if that was something we could digest. But I'm going to put that out there that I'm open to up to 15% pay increase for our employees. And I'm open again for Carmen up to 15% increase as well. I know if Carmen, I said, hey, Carmen, you get a pay raise if you go to the city of Deltona and be their manager. He's not going to take that job. Not for that. If I said, Carmen, it's $450,000 a year to be the city manager of Deltona, he may think twice about that. And they got 100,000 people that live there. So I think Carmen's proven, and I still get emails from friends that are, Carmen got a this and he gets a that, and unfortunately I have to chuckle because I deal with Carmen, and he is a good city manager. So I'm good with up to 15.
Okay, Councilmember Papalardo.
Thanks. I wrote down a lot of thoughts. I love the numbers. It's so good. 15%
I was anticipating your own
Yes.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I wish she'd given us numbers.
Did you bring a presentation for me, Mr.
No,
Papalardo?
no.
Oh, man.
Yours
Can you
was
turn it
what
on
I
an
was looking
axis?
for. I'll have one at the next meeting.
Oh.
So 50% is interesting, Councilmember Sell. I think we'll basically be there with the 10 now and the 3-ish or 4-ish come next fiscal year anyway. So I'm not trying to necessarily say that's a bad idea, but I think we're going to be really close to that. Effective date's April 6th. That's good news. So the funding source is not appealing. I'll just put it briefly. I feel like we almost had a little more millage this year.
I'm not the finance director. I do HR math now.
Oh, it's not.
I'm really sorry.
It's not her fault. So we haven't had such a thing since 2022. In 3 years, we lost a lot of standing versus our competitors. I think that I contributed part of that because in 23, I said, no, we just gave everybody a sizable change, and I contributed to tamping those down slightly, which that's my private equity bad guy background. But this past year, I did suggest we add an extra 1%. I had a feeling this was coming. the market for labor has been very painful from any employer's point of view. So any taxpayer is going to feel like it's hard to employ people. It's expensive. A lot of things have changed since 2020. So very consistently across the competitors, our hourly employees were pretty solidly on the minimum band, $3 an hour short, just across the board, which anyone's going to move for that if they're relatively close geographically. I would argue that our staff consistently does more with less, whether it's the hourly staff or the professional salaried staff. They're doing more with less. Especially on the professional staff, they take on a lot of roles that would otherwise be delegated. So it's definitely a more with less, and I feel like this is the right option right now. Not thrilled by the funding source. Cash is fungible; it's all the same, but don't like it. That's not going to impact my decision. So a note for you in the future, and this is not a direction, but something I think about often, is I'd be interested in seeing a benefits comparison. Cost, offerings, value, participation, that might be a hard metric. Something I think about pretty widely.
It's actually not.
Oh, okay.
So here's my pocket slide.
Oh, you told her.
I can hear things from my office sometimes. Yes, he told me. The city manager told me. So the most recent benefit survey I have from my consortium partners is from 2024. So I want you to know it's from a year ago. It was dated April of 2024. But our benefits, without going too far into the weeds and without trying to research the minutia as to what people's deductibles look like and what people's copays look like, and all the things, for deferred compensation, which are 401A, handled through Mission Square, we provide 10% to all employees as part of their deferred compensation package. They're fully vested after 3 years. So if you're here for 2 years and 11 months and you leave, you get nothing. If you're here for 3 years and 1 month, you get it all. That is basically right in the middle of what our counterparts in the area are doing. They're doing deferred comp between 7.5% and 12%. And these are for organizations that don't participate in FRS, because that's a whole other beast. As far as medical benefits are concerned, you can see the list of communities there. Some of them offer more than one benefit plan. They have buy-up options. Some of them have collective bargaining agreements that affect what their staff get, the type of plans they get. But for those that have high deductible healthcare plans like we do, and again, our deductible is low. It's $1,650. It's the minimum deductible under IRS rules. I don't know what the deductibles are in, say, Port Orange. But I can tell you that they still provide 100% of the cost of employee-only health care for their employees, which we do as well. Now, if you would like me to analyze further as far as how much we contribute to dependents, because we do subsidize just a little bit there. We provide the HSA seed money, as you recall, the $1,650 for employees to their health savings account. And so those things could be a conversation for another day. But since you asked the question, I could only provide you with what I had available.
This is perfect, especially for now. Thank you. That's a very healthy benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. I really appreciate you getting the numbers from all of the surrounding cities and getting everything together on these charts, and even going the extra step to printing them out on these extra large papers for us. My tablet was having issues hanging with all the numbers. And
I can't take credit. Mr. Rosamond
Yes,
did
he
that.
did that.
Okay.
I like large paper.
Well, and he knows that I always say, can you give it to me in paper, because I can't see it on that tablet.
I concur with my colleagues. You look at these numbers, and as a person who spent the first half of my career as an hourly wage worker, a couple dollars is enough to incentivize you to move. And we really do have the best staff. Council comes and goes. Staff is what really keeps everything going on here. And the institutional knowledge that you mentioned is really important, because if we did lose somebody to one of our neighbors, it's going to take us a long time to catch back up, and it's going to cost us more to hire a new person. So I'm good with the 10%. I think 15% might be a little bit too much. I agree with Councilmember Papalardo that if we do 10% this year, then the cost of living next year would probably get closer to where Councilmember Sell would like to be. And hopefully the employees don't spend it all in one place.
It's going to be paid out over the course of 5 or 6 months, I assure you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I said thank you in your office, but thank you again for doing this. I know it's very thorough, and I appreciate that. Councilmember Sell, I just have a comment about your going up to 15 or splitting it. Minimum wage is going up every year. I think we're at 13 now. It's going to 14, and then 15 is capped, state of Florida-wise. I almost feel like we should go retro and give them back what they deserve when they deserve this. They missed we keep going behind the 8 ball. I'm hoping that we'll stay caught up with our increase in the COLA in October, that we don't fall behind again, because that was part of the, we skipped that because Jim Papalardo, no. But I don't want to fall behind again, and this is a good start to where we're headed. So I appreciate it. I know I love our staff, whether they're up in a tree, their head hanging out of a ditch, and I've seen all that. So it's, they're working on, the one thing I questioned you, I wrote down CDL with a question mark. Do we not have anything that's coming up with a CDL? I mean, do we have anyone that has a CDL? Should we have to rent something?
We have employees that
Okay.
have
I
CDLs
wasn't
that are
sure.
active. We have no equipment that
No
requires
equipment, but
the
we
use
do
of
have
it.
active. I just wrote that down as a question mark. I'm like, no CDL, what does that mean? So, thank you, but I think it's great. I'm glad we're getting them to the position. I hope the staff that's watching appreciates what we're doing for you, and we love you and hope that you appreciate what we're doing.
Okay. I did appreciate the data. I did notice that there were numbers here for us.
My consortium it likes the numbers too.
Yes, yes. I do think that the appropriate approach at this current juncture is 10% across the board. It will reposition us close to what the data supports now. In some cases, it doesn't make up the whole thing. And yes, when we do the new budget, there will be an annual adjustment of some kind. Councilmember Sell, I have also, over the years, wanted to see more of a performance element in our compensation. It is very, very hard as a governmental employee to have that have much of weight in how salaries move. So we will make another adjustment within the 6 months, as Councilmember Papalardo said, which will reflect the difference in the cost of living for the past 12 months, and that will be on top of this, and it will be a percentage that will be built off this new hire platform. So I think that there's no solution that's going to be perfect, but I think this is the right solution here. That would be my opinion. So if there's further discussion, we can entertain it. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I will proudly recommend that the City Council approve the City of DeBarry's pay plan for the effective date of April 6, 2025, and authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents to provide a 10% wage adjustment for all staff, including the city manager.
Second.
Positive adjustment.
Yes. Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Yes.
Councilmember Sell.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank you all.
Tell them
Thank
that we
you.
appreciate them.
Yeah.
And so we are moving on to council member reports and communications. Councilmember Sell, anything to report? It's been a month. It's been a month.
Yeah, it's been a month. It feels like it's been longer for some reason. Last Saturday, I had the opportunity to be a guardian for honor flight for a local DeBarry resident, Jerry Lord. He is a Korean War veteran. We left DeBarry at 3:30 in the morning. We got on the flight in Orlando at 6 a.m. There were standing ovations even at 6 in the morning there. People would just stop and clap, which was really cool. We arrived up in Baltimore. right around 9:30, we got loaded onto the bus. We headed out to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We got to see the changing of the guard. They take that unbelievably serious. I mean, it's, yeah, everyone there is quiet and respectful, and it's really amazing. The cherry blossoms were in bloom. I think DC had probably about 75,000 people there. They were all flying kites. We did not get to do much of anything else. We just got to see everything from the window of a bus, unfortunately. It was chaos up there. It was nice to see families out and enjoying the weather. It was a warm day, believe it or not. The veterans all had fun. I was younger than most of the folks on the flight, and I was really, really tired by the end of the day. We got home at midnight at Orlando Airport. Wow. So I think we were up for 23 hours. And you're talking about some veterans, you know. They were all talking on the flight on the way home. It was really enjoyable. If anyone wants any information, I can get them the information if you just email me. Wives cannot be guardians. Your husband can go, but your wife cannot be a guardian. That is a steadfast rule. So they do provide guardians. The cost for a guardian is they pay $500. The veteran does not pay anything. We didn't spend any money the rest of the trip. They provided breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it's something that I hope we can get every vet in the city of DeBary, get them on board and get them up there. It's really enjoyable. The camaraderie, it's like a clique. It's really cool. So that was my Saturday. That's probably going to be the highlight of my year for sure. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. Councilmember Papalardo.
A big thank you to firefighters Felix and Annie for helping my wife with a minor emergency last week. They were great. We just have the best people here, don't we?
Yeah.
The Barry Rotary 5K River Run is at Gemini Springs, Saturday, April 12th, 8 a.m. or so. Please sign up. I'm going to be there.
Okay. Councilmember Stevenson.
I also signed up for the 5K this year. I'll just be walking. Thank you. It has been a busy month. I did go to the Volusia League of Cities dinner the other night, doing lots of TNR stuff in general here in our city. And I had also been asked by some of the volunteers that did TNR in Deltona to go over there and talk about their program, actually listen more to their staff and their workshop and their council concerns. And it got me thinking about our program here in DeBary and how much I love and appreciate it, and possibly wanted to bring up and see if you guys would be interested in creating a resolution that would officially adopt TNR in our city as the most effective, humane method for population control. I looked up some examples, how we could possibly phrase this, and just basically solidify it a little bit more than it is. We've just kind of had it as a budget item that could be removed at any time if any future council decided they didn't want to continue it. So I would ask for consensus, I suppose, if the city manager could move forward to work on that with me.
I would be happy for consensus to have such a thing drafted and then brought back as an agenda item.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Vice Mayor Butlin?
Thank you, Mayor. Although it's been a month, it's been busy. I attended the roundtable. Volusia League of Cities had a board meeting, which I attended, and talked legislation. We went to, also attended the Parks Department luncheon. That was the regional. It's always good to see what other people are doing. Team Volusia had their annual meeting that Shari and I both went to. We had a great experience at Legislative Action Days in Tallahassee. We heard from Shari tonight about all the woes in Tallahassee, and it's not getting better. I also attended the League of Cities dinner, and I know the mayor's probably going to talk about it, but it was about small business, and Kathy from Central 28 came, and she thought it was a great night. I saw her over the weekend. I want to congratulate Carmen on his 6-month anniversary. I walked in yesterday and said, "I'm quitting and you're fired." April Fools. It was a 6-year.
6 year. Yeah.
6 years, so
Yeah.
that was
Time
great to
flies
have.
and whatnot.
I know. And then I just want to remind everyone, on Sunday is a pancake breakfast vendor event over here at Florence K. Little. Please come and support the Volunteer Firemen's Association as they're raising money for the new fire station and going forward with other things that they're planning. So that's it.
Okay. I have a long list of things that I did, 5 things plus that I did with my last month. But first that I would like to mention is, with this being the anniversary of Carmen's hire with the city, 6 years yesterday, it is our annual time about an annual evaluation. And my inclination is, unless someone wants a more formalized process, that anyone who chooses to do an individual evaluation would use this form. Well, I'll keep this one, you take that. And would schedule a time to meet with him and go over your comments using this as the format. Then this would be deposited with Wendy, and it would be part of his file. If anyone has a feeling that you would like something to be done as a public review, we could do that. My sense is that I give him guidance probably every single week as in the form of feedback when issues come up, and I'm pretty confident that he has a good sense of my judgment of his performance. So I don't feel as compelled to do it in a written format, but anyone who chooses to should use this format and schedule a time to review it with him, unless someone else wants to propose a different format. We good with that this year?
I just
Okay.
want to go on record that because of my guidance is the reason he's so good.
There you go. Excellent. Secondly, Councilmember Papalardo, sunshine prevents me from asking you this outside of this forum. A number of times you have made reference to land bank in conversations about the foundation and references even earlier this evening. What I would like to do is to request that in a future meeting, but not very far in the future, that you would do a presentation to give us your thoughts of what you're talking about. A land bank, what kinds of things do you think it could be? Why it might be attractive, how, you've mentioned it in reference to the foundation, how that might work. You said something this evening about the city, how that might work. I would just like to understand what sort of land bank you are talking about and have more enlightenment. And like I say, and for those watching the meeting, we are very, very careful about the sunshine law here in DeBary. And so this is the forum in a publicly announced meeting where I can ask Councilmember Papalardo to in a fairly near-term meeting, provide that for us. I have the authority to add things to the agenda as mayor, that's in the charter, but if anyone here has an objection to it, I also would do this by consensus. Is that okay?
I'd be excited to, and just briefly, I have some thoughts about it. If it could be paired perhaps with the strategic session, that could be a good opportunity.
Okay.
If we're still doing that type of workshop as part of an agenda item.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've got stuff up
Well,
here. There you go.
I didn't think you were just like thinking of it on the dais. But
yeah,
again,
yeah.
I can't ask you about it. We can't sit
course.
down and chew the fat, so.
Yeah, I have to, I have bitten several staff members' ears off just talking about it
Sure.
a lot. Their ears are probably burning right
Yeah.
now, so.
Okay. Things I did with my time. Toured Alexander Island with staff and Dr. Wendy Anderson of Stetson. She's an environmental sciences professor there, and she hadn't been there. Had lunch and heard the presentations from the regional Parks and Rec staff with the DeBary staff when it was hosted at DeBary Hall. That happens about once a year. The vice mayor was there as well as Carmen and Sherry. I attended the FDOT informational meeting with residents at Gateway on their plans for their redo of 1792 from I-4 up to through Orange City and into DeLand. Carmen, you didn't win as far as anything in a median here in the middle. It's not part of their plan. I don't think that means that our safe streets for all might not bring that into play at some time, but the plans that they had show the same lane configuration for the middle of our city as is current.
It is because obviously as we got into it and the more impacts that we would create, and some of the little medians that they would be extremely small that wouldn't impact any businesses. It just wasn't worth the it wasn't worth the fight.
I just did notice that when I was there. I met with Randy Fine along with some of the other Volusia mayors over on the east side to lobby him on pending state legislation because he was going to be in Tallahassee for a week and a half after that. But primarily, given the fact that he was expected to win the election, which he did last night, to give him DeBerry's DC lobbyist representation and the specific list of things that we are seeking in appropriations from the federal budget in 26 that Sherry spoke about earlier this evening. So at the end of the meeting, he did assure me on his own that he had the papers and they were in his pocket. What does that do? I'm not sure, but it's probably better than him not having the papers in his pocket. At the TPO meeting, I did tell the FDOT representative that we're working on getting the I-4 River Bridge included in the near-term funding for investments. This was not someone with the kind of clout that had any way to move it, but that it should not come as a surprise to them that we come to the TPO and that we try to recruit the TPO to forward the kinds of effort we saw in the resolution tonight. At the VLOC dinner last week, I did take Kathy DeBishop as our small business entrepreneur. Each mayor was invited to do so. She was so happy to be there. She made some contacts, I think, and I think it was good for her, and it reflected very well on our city as well. And yesterday, I guess it was, I spent some time with a WESH reporter who just wanted to understand what's going on in DeBerry, and we spent about an hour on that. So that's the 5 things I did last week. City manager.
Yes, a few things, Mayor. Just so happens that April 16th, at the end of that council meeting, we'll have a discussion item on all the strategic planning. Before the end of the week, I'll provide you all the documents, of our transportation, our stormwater, and all our strategic initiatives, that we have on those large sheets. I'll put them in your box as well as hard copies, just to give you a background of what we talked about last year. And then we can have a strategic planning discussion on things you want to add, things you want to delete. I'll give you an update on all the initiatives, exactly where we are, et cetera, et cetera. So April 16th, we'll do that. And I don't know, Mr. Parbelau, you think the land bank, you could have something by the 16th?
Oh, yeah.
It'll go good with that strategic planning.
Thank you.
Part of that.
Now, you said you were doing that during reports?
What's
No. Or is this an agenda item?
No, it'll be an agenda item.
Okay.
So it'll just say discussion of strategic initiatives.
Okay.
And we can talk about what we want to put on and what we don't want to
Okay.
put on.
Good.
Et cetera.
Good. And I would put Council Papalardo's as a separate agenda.
Separate item, okay.
Yeah.
The signs that you see on Fort Florida Road was put up to bear by Volusia County Utilities without our knowledge. And they're actually going to be putting potable water in, just for some of these folks that are watching, from Barwick Road to Fort Florida Point Road, all the way around. So obviously they're taking the potable water from Barwick to our fire station and then all the way around. So they're going to bring that. They're not bringing sewer. Sewer is at Alexander Island. We anticipate if that Murphy property does come forward, they will have to extend the sewer all the way through on the other side of the street. So only potable water at this time. That will eliminate 2 dead ends, which should clean up the water and the water supply. So apologize for that getting out there, but they put those out there before we can get the communication out there, and so we're catching up on that communication to the residents there. There will be no road closures, but there'll be maybe some MOT lane closures that you might have to circle around simply because of the narrow width between the road and getting that potable water line adjacent to the road. Barwick at Fort Florida Road, you may notice, and when you're traveling Barwick, you'll get that nice little 2 dips there. Those are areas where stormwater pipes go under the road and they weren't packed properly, and so those are going to be repaired by Breyer with cooperation with Rivington, and so they're taking care of that, and that will do the same thing. There'll be MOT there. You'll have to work your way around, and as they fix both sides of the road, they'll probably do one side at a time. The mayor asked me to make a real short presentation on what seems to be a very popular additive, and that's this green striping. And I do have about 4 slides here, and I do have about a 1-minute video because I want you to see, and then we're using Seminole County as the model. They have done an outstanding job of getting these in there. They did a whole study on this, which I'm stealing from, obviously, and so and when you watch the video here, it really kind of indicates why it's being done. Obviously, for pedestrians, it enhances safety, encourages walking. The bicyclists, it provides enhanced visibility, and the motorists, it also provides heightened awareness for motorists. When they drive up, they will see this here, and that's what really stood out to me, was that it's not necessarily for bikers, it's really for motorists, make them aware that they're in a situation where pedestrians and bikers are. So let me see if I can play this video here. It's 1 minute long. Again, this is from Seminole County.
These green crosswalks are being painted throughout Seminole County to enhance the trail crossing and the safety of those trail crossings and those users that walk and bike or stroll the trail on a regular basis.
Of course, the Parks and Preservation Advisory Committee is supportive of anything that's going to increase safety for our users of the trails. These high visibility trail crossings have become more popular, I guess, in their use around the country, and it was good to see that the county wanted to include these now.
Part of the visibility of the green paint really draws it out for people driving so that they can see where they need to stop and watch out for those people.
So the safety is for not only the drivers, but also the pedestrians and the cyclists, anybody who's using the trail.
So, and obviously the question is, it came up with why green? Well, that's a national transportation standard, is the green for that. And so they have various colors. If you look up, and I got the law over here, and green is the standard for these types of crossings. And so, obviously, conflict mitigation, I'm just going to provide you some pictures there. You don't have to, I can email you this presentation here. And so, yeah, you can see the high visibility. I did pull, they did have some costs on there. And so I did pull off some of their plans. I did provide, and again, these costs are from April 2022, so please disregard them. They're probably more than doubled now. But it seems to be that some of these striping only, where you don't have to put signage and everything else, they'll be between $7,500 to $10,000 an intersection. And this is the trail coming in from the upper right, going through the lower left, and this is a 2-lane street that I pulled this particular plan off of. You can see there's stop signs being put in there, and there's the flashing lights. And when you get into signalization, that's when the cost goes extremely high. So more than $100,000 when you get into the flashing lights and everything else. So I started kind of anticipating, okay, if we were going to do this in DeBary, where would we start? I don't necessarily think we need to paint the whole city green, because you can certainly do it where we have our brick stamped asphalt on each of the streets there. I'm not sure if that's appropriate, but with trail crossings, that's typically where they are. So I'm going to start with the left, High Banks Trail crossing right there before the railroad tracks. Even though it's white, it's not green. And then the trail crossing at Donald D. Smith right there by the school. And then also the Shell pedestrian crossing by Winn-Dixie there could be green, as well as the Azalea pedestrian crossing by the school there, where a lot of families are coming from Azalea Road across High Banks to get to the school. But continuing, there's the trail crossing down there in Barwick and Fort Florida that is now complete, and you can take the trail from Alexander Island all the way to the Sunrail station. Fort Florida Road crossing 1792. Obviously, notice now that trail is done. Also, the trail that goes by Integra, the portion that actually hits the Gemini Springs Trail is now complete. And you'll see that at the next meeting. And then when the junction closes on that 2.17 acres and that gets built, that trail will go from the Gemini Springs Trail all the way to Alexander Island. They'll have to cross 1792 there, and that would be an important one there where bikes and pedestrians are crossing 1792 at that traffic signal. And of course, Dirksen and 1792, where the three trails meet, also are key areas there that deserve and need to be green. So these are some of the areas that I just kind of highlighted. And obviously there's more potential crossings on 1792. Obviously Lake and Columba, High Banks, Dogwood, Springview, Parkview, when that light goes in, and Barwick, if that light goes in there. And then some of the county roads, the Mansion Boulevard crossing, obviously, try to get the county to do that. And also the High Banks Enterprise crossing there as well. So those are some of the areas that I just kind of brainstormed a little bit when the mayor was kind of picking my brain about how we can do all this. And certainly we can do one or two intersections at a time and get them started, get them completed, and then as it goes along, we'll see how green we want to get and see how far we can go. But ultimately, I think these are important crosswalks where bikes and pedestrians are, where there's a significant amount of volume of traffic that the traffic needs to be aware that they're approaching these particular areas. And so, Mayor and Council, that's my little presentation on the green striping, where it comes from, why it's there. It's certainly something that we can put in our strategic initiatives, certainly in our budget. We can do a couple of them. It's within my spending authority. I do think I have some areas in the budget that are for sidewalks and stuff that I can convert to green striping. That we can get one or two done. Let's analyze it, see what it does, see what the public's reaction is, and then maybe as we go into next year's fiscal budget, insert it in and for more intersections. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. I've had multiple council members talk about when they go to Seminole County, what they see these particular crossings. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we can just leave it there, and I know that Councilmember Papalardo had liked it. It took me a while to get the specs from the person because the ball got dropped, but I think this is good. And as we move into the strategic planning and the budget process, I think we can incorporate these if there's consensus in the council that we want to do that.
And maybe if you can just kind of look at this and say, okay,
Yeah.
Now 1792 is going to get redone.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do 1792 right this moment. Starting in July, you're probably going to see a lot more activity on Highway 1792. But certainly down High Banks and around the school.
These are our roads. We can do that.
Yep. And just think about those, and certainly we can do some test runs.
Okay.
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
City Attorney, do you have anything to report?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, I have a late-breaking item here. Everyone should remember that April the 12th, we have the hazardous waste collection that the county's doing outside of Florence K. Little, and that is courtesy of the Vice Mayor remembering and me not. Hearing nothing further,